Hi, welcome home to my kitchen. We are gonna make tonight chicken pesto mozzarella. This is a family favorite. It's a recipe that came about on accident. I was a young mother cooking out of the Del Monte tomato cookbook. I completely botched the recipe, and this is the recipe that came about. Brian and the kids absolutely love it. It's extremely economical, so let's get started. All that you need for this recipe is chicken breasts, Italian diced tomatoes with the seasonings, oregano, and whatever else is in Italian tomatoes, a tub of pesto, 3 boxes of spaghetti, mozzarella cheese, just a little salt and pepper for seasoning, and we're going to cook the whole thing and make the sauce out of olive oil. So all these ingredients will serve 12 to 16 people, and all of this costs $30 total, which means you can feed each person for only $2.50 a serving. So the first step is you're just going to want to salt and pepper the chicken pretty liberally on both sides. I just like to salt one side, and then when I turn the chicken over in the pan, I will salt the other side and pepper. So we've got the top done. We're gonna fill our skillet, and I have a huge monster skillet that fits all these chicken breasts and more. Don't ask me where I got it because it's a one-of-a-kind that was made just for me, but I'm sure that you're not cooking for as many people, so don't worry about it. But you're gonna want at least a 1/4 cup. Olive oil pretty deep, and don't worry because there will be a lot left over, and we're going to toss that with the noodles. So while we're heating up the oil, we're going to heat up the hot water to boil our spaghetti noodles. I cook everything on high, so I would say between a 1 and a 10. I have my oil on about an 8.5. and I've got my hot water on a 10. It is really hot and bubbling, and we're just going to lay the chicken pieces in side by side, being careful not to overlap. I like to save my thicker pieces for the middle, since obviously the middle is what cooks faster. We're going to turn on our exhaust. We're just going to let these guys sizzle and get nice and brown on the bottom before we flip them over. So all the breasts are flipped over to the other side. We have a nice golden crisp to them. We're just going to add salt and pepper to the underside of the breast. Let it cook for about 5 to 7 minutes longer, and then we'll be ready to add the tomatoes. Meanwhile, our water has come to a rolling boil, so it's time to add our spaghetti noodles. These will take about 7 minutes to boil, so these will end up perfect timing, completed at the same time. Our chicken breasts are just about done. There's probably about a 1.5 minutes left. So for this last minute, I'm just going to take 2 cans, undrained. We want that juice because we're going to mix it with the olive oil. I know this is really loud. It's sizzling, and I've got to turn the fan on because the steam. So we have 3 cans left over. These 3 cans are going to be tossed with our drained spaghetti. So we have 2 cans going over the chicken, 3 cans saved for the spaghetti. We're going to put a lid on this, turn the heat down to a medium, about a 5, give it about a minute, and then we'll be ready to add the pesto and mozzarella. Our chicken breasts are cooked all the way through. So what we're going to do is kind of scrape the tomato chunks off, and we're going to flip them back over, top side up. And we're going to take about a tablespoon of pesto and just spread it over the top of each breast, and then top the breast and the pesto with mozzarella cheese. So I'm just gonna take my little tub here. This is my favorite brand, Buitoni. I've tried so many different brands of pesto. I would say the only one that was better was my friend Gloria's homemade pesto. You want it kind of thick. You don't want to spread it too thin, because once the cheese melts on there, it's gonna hold it all in place. So be liberal, don't worry about, you can't have too much pesto, right? Pesto is life. Was that cringy, Seth? Okay, so we're almost done here. Pretty good for 14 breasts. I think I got everybody. Yes, I talk to my food as if they have genders and feelings. Are you boys okay? All right, so we have it all on there. We use the entire tub, which is pretty typical. If you're cooking for your basic family of 4 or 5, you're gonna use probably a third of the tub. Normally, I use slices, but I forgot to put it in my click list basket. So I have a mixture. Actually, this is moldy. All right, so we're gonna use grated. Melts the same, doesn't matter at all. Not a big deal. We're just gonna top it on there. Yum. Oozy, gooey cheese. So I don't handle dairy very well. I never drink milk, and I don't eat ice cream. Cheese is one of those things, though, that my tummy does just fine with, and I'm so glad, because, like pesto, cheese is life. All right, so we still have our burner on medium. I'm going to turn it down even lower to about a 3. I'm going to get the lid that I put over here, and we are just going to leave that on until the cheese melts. Meanwhile, my noodles are done. I'm going to drain the noodles, and then we will make the final sauce. So we have strained the noodles, and I'm going to pour them back into the pot. And we're going to drizzle with some olive oil. If I can get the lid off. Oh my goodness. So again, liberal, don't worry about getting too much. Add 1 can undrained Italian tomatoes. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and add a 2nd can. Then we'll toss it and add another layer. So here's 2 cans. Just give it a good toss from the bottom up. Our goal here is just to make sure that all the noodles are covered with the tomato juice and the olive oil. So it's not like a thick marinara sauce, it's just kind of a oily covering. So I'm going to put a little bit more now that I got the bottom of the pan tossed to the top. And I'll add 1 more can of tomatoes. You'll also see when we lift the lid on the chicken that there's going to be some reserve olive oil and tomato sauce in there as well, and that complements these noodles nicely. So that's kind of what it looks like. Not, there's just like little chunks of tomato everywhere, and you can kind of see an oily sheen, but it's not thick. It's not really a sauce. Here are our chicken breasts. You can see the green pesto with the melted cheese. Like I said, we have plenty of sauce here too. This is just olive oil and tomato juice. So if you like extra sauce on your noodles, if this isn't quite saucy enough, you can pour this all over your noodles as well. I'm gonna call the family up to serve themselves, and we'll give you a look at the final product. Layer of pasta. This is Brian's plate, so he's gonna get 2 breasts. I'm gonna add some extra sauce over the top. There we go. And Now it's your turn.